Chapter 10. Belonging as Medicine. There is no pill for loneliness. There never will be. Because loneliness is not a disease, it's a signal, a physiological alarm that something essential is missing: belonging. Belonging is the oldest medicine on earth. It existed before language, before law, before civilization. It is how the body knows it's safe enough to heal. The biology of belonging. When we feel we belong, the entire body shifts into a healing state. Heart rate slows. Muscles relax. The immune system strengthens. Stress hormones recede. These aren't metaphors, they're measurable facts. Researchers at UCLA and the University of Chicago have shown that chronic loneliness alters gene expression, increasing inflammation and suppressing antiviral responses. In contrast, belonging activates oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. The same neurochemicals that regulate bonding, happiness, and motivation. In essence, connection turns off survival mode. This is why people in loving relationships live longer, recover faster from illness, and show lower rates of depression and addiction. The nervous system interprets belonging as biological safety. Without it, the body believes it's still in danger. Belonging is not consensus. True belonging doesn't require agreement, it requires acceptance. It's not about sameness but safety within difference. It's the experience of being allowed to exist fully, even when you don't fit neatly into others' expectations. Most forms of exclusion, from families to nations, disguise themselves as standards. But belonging built on conformity is fragile. It vanishes the moment you speak your truth. The medicine of belonging works only when authenticity is allowed. Otherwise, what looks like community is just another form of control. The hierarchy of connection. Belonging begins inside the self and expands outward like concentric circles. Interpersonal belonging, being at home within your own emotions, body, and story. Interpersonal belonging, being seen, respected, and understood by others. Communal belonging, feeling valued and connected within a group or culture. Planetary belonging, recognizing one's place in the web of nature and humanity. When any layer is fractured, the others weaken. When they align, the person feels integrated, part of something living, not isolated within it. The reconditioning process restores belonging in this same order, from within to without. Because if you can't inhabit yourself, no external community can heal you. The wound of exclusion. Exclusion cuts deeper than rejection. Rejection says, not now. Exclusion says, not ever. That permanence, or perceived permanence, rewires the brain into expecting abandonment. Every new relationship is filtered through the memory of the old wound. This is how emotional exile becomes generational. In many families, exclusion is inherited as tradition. The scapegoat role, the black sheep, the disowned sibling, these are symptoms of systemic belonging disorder. Each generation passes down the unhealed shame of the last. The irony is that exclusion always begins as protection, a way to maintain order. But in trying to preserve identity, it poisons connection. It forgets that safety created through division is a fragile kind of peace. The economics of belonging. Belonging is also the hidden currency of all social systems. Where it flows freely, cooperation and innovation thrive. Where it's scarce, corruption and apathy rise. Studies in organizational psychology show that employees who feel they belong are twice as engaged, 3 times more likely to stay, and 5 times more likely to innovate. Similar effects appear in education, healthcare, and even policing. Belonging reduces error, builds trust, and increases moral behavior. When people feel they matter, they act like it. In that sense, belonging isn't sentimental, it's infrastructure. How belonging heals the brain. Neuroscientists studying attachment and trauma have found that secure relationships literally reorganize the brain. Therapy, friendship, and love activate the same neural pathways that early neglect once damaged. The amygdala learns to quiet down in response to safety cues. The prefrontal cortex strengthens its control over impulsive reactions. The hippocampus rebuilds memory coherence, allowing people to distinguish past threat from present safety. This process, called earned security, proves that the brain can learn belonging even after decades of deprivation. It's neuroplasticity in action, powered by compassion. Every time someone is treated with kindness when they expect rejection, a neural correction occurs. That's medicine at the molecular level. Community as pharmacy. If belonging is medicine, then community is the pharmacy, the place where that medicine is dispensed. Communities that heal share for active ingredients. Consistency, showing up repeatedly, even when outcomes aren't immediate. Transparency, communicating needs, limits, and intentions honestly. Accountability, repairing harm when it occurs instead of pretending it did not. Affection, small gestures of warmth that remind people they matter. These ingredients create an environment where trust can metabolize trauma. They transform community from a social convenience into a biological necessity. The dangers of substitutes. Because the hunger for belonging is primal, people often settle for counterfeit connection, belonging that feels good but heals nothing. Examples include online echo chambers that validate anger instead of authenticity. Extremist movements offering identity through division. Codependent relationships that confuse control for care. Corporate team cultures that celebrate burnout as loyalty. These forms of pseudo-belonging mimic safety while reinforcing fear. They satisfy the craving temporarily, but the body still knows it's starving. Real belonging doesn't demand surrender, it invites return. Rituals of return. In all healing traditions, belonging is restored through ritual, acts that symbolically welcome people back into the circle. Confession, forgiveness, baptism, reconciliation, community meals, all serve the same function. They remind individuals that they are part of something larger than their wounds. Modern life has few such rituals left. But we can create new ones. Shared dinners, recovery meetings, public apologies, community art, storytelling circles. Every time we gather in honesty and allow emotion to be seen, we are practicing the ancient medicine of return. The global epidemic of disconnection. The World Health Organization has declared loneliness a public health crisis. Epidemiologists now rank social isolation as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases mortality risk by nearly 30%. This isn't just a social problem, it's a biological emergency. We are a species dying of disconnection. Belonging isn't optional anymore, it's survival. And yet the cure remains within reach, waiting in every human interaction. Belonging and justice. Belonging doesn't stop at emotional well-being. It's the foundation of justice. People who don't feel included in society are less likely to follow its rules. Communities that exclude invite rebellion, those that welcome invite stewardship. That's why every movement for equality, from civil rights to climate action, is ultimately a movement for belonging. It's about extending the circle until no one stands outside it. Justice is simply institutionalized empathy. Belonging as accountability. True belonging also means accountability. It doesn't mean unconditional acceptance of harmful behavior. It means believing people can change, and staying close enough to witness that change. When we hold others accountable with compassion rather than shame, we communicate faith in their capacity for growth. That faith is the strongest motivator known to psychology. People rarely transform because they're punished, they transform because someone still believes they can. Belonging doesn't remove responsibility, it gives it meaning. Closing reflection. Belonging heals because it reminds us that we were never meant to do life alone. It turns survival into connection, and connection into conscience. When we design families, communities, and nations that practice inclusion as consistently as breathing, we won't just reduce suffering, we'll increase intelligence, creativity, and compassion on a planetary scale. Because belonging isn't just medicine for the mind. It's the heartbeat of civilization. And when that heartbeat is strong, everything else, justice, peace, progress, begins to pulse with it. End of chapter 10, Belonging as Medicine. This is a beautiful moment in your book, the turning point where healing stops being a reaction to pain and becomes a cultural inheritance. In this chapter, we'll explore how recovered individuals and communities can pass their healing forward, transforming pain into wisdom and resilience into legacy. Chapter 11. From Trauma to Culture, How Healing Becomes Heritage.